Hey, what's up, duck hunters? All right, so this video is all about how to get paid every single time as an apartment locator, okay?
You're breaking my heart, but I know I can't leave. I can't leave. You've been laying with somebody that...
All right, guys, so here's the first thing, right? You need to understand how apartment locators get paid, how we send invoices, how we receive payment in order to understand how to always get paid. So as an apartment locator, we refer a tenant over to a property, right? The property didn't pay for advertising spend. We just referred them over, and then so we get usually a month of the 12-month contract. That's sort of the nature of how it works. Okay, so the second thing is that, you'll only get paid if you actually were the procuring cause of the referral, right? If it was because of you only that they applied to the apartment, in other words. Okay, so that means like if the lead was ever generated, if your client, has ever looked at the website within the last couple of months or so, or if your client clicked on some ad and then got on the website, a lot of the times you won't get paid, right? Because you didn't really refer them. Or at least that's the argument, right, that they'll make to not pay you, is that you didn't refer them because they put ad spend and they've been on the website before, etc. So how do you get to the bottom of who's right and who's wrong? That's the question, right? Did you refer them? Did you not refer them? What's the determining factor on if you're going to get paid or not? So the answer is that your client has to write your name on the paper application if it's a paper application. But if it's an online application, they have to have selected Locator or Realtor or typed in your broker name or your name somewhere inside of the online application that was stored. So that is the determining factor on whether or not you're really going to get paid, right? So that way you're not arguing back and forth on who really referred them, but they went on the website, but it doesn't really matter because you still persuaded them to go, right? You can argue this with both sides nonstop. That's another reason why it's really important to have a strong collections department if you are in the need of having to argue it, right? Generally speaking, the actual precise way, the only real determining factor on if you're going to get paid or not, where no one can argue it, is if your name was written on the paper application or if they selected Locator on the online application while they applied. All right, I just wanted to make that part clear, so moving forward. So when this business first began, right, like decades ago, 30 years ago, there used to be a couple practices that apartment locators used. And we're going to talk about why they don't make sense anymore. Back in the day was something called a guest card, which is basically a paper file that apartment complexes would use to fill out the potential tenant or the client's information, right? And then put your name down, etc. So guest cards and really anything paper is sort of a thing of the past. I mean, we're going into 2020. So, 20, 30 years ago, a paper guest card that the apartments generated and a paper guest card that the locator, the brokerage firm generated was a requirement to get paid. That doesn't matter anymore because using a lot of paper is bad for the environment and it doesn't make any sense in a business standpoint with all the resources and tools that we have, like technology today, right? So it doesn't make sense anymore to use a guest card. And you'll notice that most properties, even if they request the guest card, don't really require it. The only determining factor is if your name is on the paper application or the online application somewhere. The second thing I want to bring up is something called a lease verification. So a lease verification was used back in the day to send out to a property like sort of the moment right before or right after or during like an apartment closing, right? And I mean, I say closing, but really it's like when your client applies for the apartment, that's what's the determining factor on if you're going to get paid, right? Because remember, they got to write your name while they apply. So while that was going on or right after, locators or brokers would send over a lease verification request just to kind of confirm like, hey, we just brought him over today. Can you sign this stating that you're going to pay us and like not make up some story in the future on how we didn't refer them? So this is what a lease verification is, right? You're verifying the lease that you just got. So this is a thing of the past, right? It's not really necessary because, when guest cards were a thing, then it was kind of really important to have a lease verification on file, right? And to send one out as you were getting leases. Because in case they lost the paper guest card that they required, you're not relying on like human intelligence and for the leasing agent to just remember you, right? So a lot of the times brokers felt more comfortable just sending out a lease verification in case a paper guest card got lost, right? But we're in 2020, right? And everything's going online. So, there's no need for guest cards, right? And because the determining factor is only if they wrote your name down or if they mentioned you on the online application, lease verifications are kind of redundant because they're only going to pay you if you're listed on the app or if they select Locator or Realtor on the online app, right? And online apps never really expire. And most of the times, even if your client applies with a paper application, once they get approved, they still import all of the info from the paper app online digitally anyways, right? And so everything's stored online because we're in 2020. So it doesn't really make a lot of sense to use a lease verification request, right? In my opinion, it's kind of like passive aggressive, to send over a lease verification, right? You're basically like asking the property to do more work on your behalf just to make you comfortable that you're getting payment when it's redundant because they're only going to pay you after they verify that you're listed, right? So if you are truly listed on the paper app or the online app, there's no real point to send out a lease verification request, right? It doesn't make any sense for both parties anymore. So it's a waste of your time because you're generating new lease verifications, right? Where you could just not be doing that and not putting the time and the manpower to generate them and send them over. And it doesn't make a lot of sense for the property to receive them because now they're working to fill out your lease verification request, which is redundant because all they're going to do before paying you is see if your name is on the app or on the online app. So it makes no sense anymore in 2020 to use lease verifications, right? I still see sponsoring brokers recommend this practice to agents, and it's unbelievably crazy to me because it's a waste of everyone's time, and it's like kind of passive aggressive in my opinion. So stop using lease verifications and paper guest cards, right? Most people apply online anyway, so it's very black and white whether or not you're going to get paid. Your name is going to be on there or it's not going to be on there, right? So there's no arguing or negotiation, right? Either your client listed you or they didn't list you. It's very easy because everything's online now because we live in year 2020. As you can tell, like I'm getting a little frustrated because I see this for some reason this is a big issue still in the industry today, right? People I get so many questions about lease verifications. Other leasing agents from properties bring up guest cards, and I have to explain to them and walk them through how it doesn't make sense, right? With a lot of properties I do business with, I'm like, hey guys, we don't do paper guest cards in my business because of this and because of that. And every single time I explain to people and other professionals in the industry and other brokers, just really everyone within the apartment rental, real estate industry, everyone always agrees with me, and then they realize that it is a waste of time, and then they tell me that it's not necessary, right? But then it's annoying because I still have to, put in the effort to explain that to people in the industry of professionals. So let's all just, let's make a team effort, a group effort on the broker side and the leasing agent side to stop working with guest cards and lease verifications because they're redundant and it's a waste of everyone's time. It doesn't add value to both parties or the client, most importantly. Apartments will pay on a send or an escort. So if you guys are experiencing an issue collecting because, you referred over a client, but they required you to escort and show up in person, even though this is a dying practice, a lot of the times if you politely and professionally explain to them why it doesn't make sense to escort, most of the times properties will agree. More often than not, they'll agree with you and then pay you anyways. Let me give you an example, right? So actually really recently, I had referred one of my clients over to an apartment complex that paid only on an escort. So that means they would require me to walk into the property physically with my client in order to receive payment from the building. My name was written on the application, but they noticed that I actually didn't escort them, right? Because I don't escort. And the leasing agent told me that I wouldn't be paid on the transaction, on the referral. And so what I did is I politely over email in writing, explain to them how, the reasons I don't escort in my business and why they should respect that. And it worked. All right, so let's go over what I said. First of all, I embedded a video response of myself explaining to them why I don't do escort. And so you can embed a video quite seamlessly inside of an email by using a tool called Loom, right? Just download Loom. It's a free Chrome extension, and then you can very easily record on your computer and then attach it to the email, and it sends every time without being rejected because the video file is too large. So check out Loom, right? But basically what I said was, hey, listen, we referred over this client. We were listed as the representation. They wrote our name on the application. And I just wanted to take some time to explain to you the reasons we don't actually escort within our unique company. And so what I said is I basically broke down to them that if we decided to work escort, two critical things happen as a result of doing escort in your business. All right, so the two critical things are, first of all, as a broker with your resources, you are unable to work with more clients if you focus on escorting in your business, right? When you do an appointment in person and you show the property and you go on tour with your client, the appointment takes anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour, and then it takes another 1 to 2 hours to tour industry standard, their 3 favorite options, right? That's just what happens in the industry. You set an appointment, you narrow down their 3 apartments, and then you go, show them the property and drive there, right? So the whole process takes 2 or 3 hours, right? So there's only like 8 hours or so in a workday. So that means you're capped at 3 clients, right? So if you can only help 3 clients a day, you can only technically help 3 times, there's 30 days in a month, so you can technically only help like 90 clients in a month max, right? That would technically be your cap of how many people you can help. Well, if you do everything remotely, you can take care of 1 client via 10-minute, over the phone appointments, right? And so, you can work a tremendous amount more clients if you work send. So the important part to get out of what I'm saying is that as a broker, you are able to efficiently help more clients, which is doing the right thing to your clients, right? In real estate, you always need to put the client first. Right, so whatever business practice or argument, whatever ends up benefiting the client more is what the real estate commission in your state, is going to agree with. Right, along with other businesses that just understand what real estate is, right? It's always about putting your client first, right? So if you can help more people efficiently by working send, it would only make sense for you to work send in your business. So that's the first reason that I work send. Right? It's because I can help more people and genuinely help people find an apartment, right? The second big important thing is more favored towards like your income, right? When you work escort, right, you are literally putting a cap on the amount of money that you can make in a month as an apartment locator. And what business in the world would want to put a cap on their income in their profession? It doesn't even make business sense, right? So when you explain that in a professional way, let me explain the second reason a little bit better to put it into perspective, right? If you can only, remember when we said, we just talked about how if you escort, you can only really help 3 people in a day max. So then how could you physically help more than 90 people in a month? So it's very easy. If the average commission is about $1,000, right, and you're helping 3 people a day because you're doing appointments and you're escorting, when you escort, you have like a 50% chance of closing someone if you're a competent locator, right? So let's just say it's more concerned. Let's say it's like out of the 3 appointments you do, 1 person closes, right? So it's really easy to understand, okay? So your 3 appointments a day, it'll take you all day. You're closing 1 out of the 3 appointments, right? So you're closing 1 person every single day for 30 days means you can technically have a maximum of 30 closings ever for the month because you're closing 1 client every single day hypothetically for 30 days, right? So that means no matter what happens, if you're really truly working 3 appointments as an apartment locator every single day, and you're closing 1 client, so if the average commission's $1,000 in this hypothetical example, you're making $1,000 a day for 30 days, you have a maximum income of 30 grand a month. Now, why would that make sense to put a cap on your income as a professional, right? When instead you can work remote, help like 10 or 12 times more clients, make more money because you're not limited to only helping 3 clients in an 8-hour workday, right? You can have 10-minute conversations with several clients, and now you can earn thousands of more dollars every single day. And so at the end of the month, you can easily earn way more than like the 30,000 max if you were just escorting, okay? So when I explained that, so basically you make more money when you work send, and you also help more clients more efficiently and save your clients time and gas. So you're doing the right thing for your clients and you're making more money for yourself. That's why I don't escort ever, right? If I don't absolutely have to. So when you explain that to leasing agents in a polite way, You'll be surprised. A lot of the times they'll agree with you and just pay it out anyways, right? So very recently, some building denied payment, and I just threw a Loom video on email, very respectfully said, hey guys, listen, like this is why I don't escort, right? And I just ran them through the basic explanation based on math, right? I'm like, if I had an escort, I could only physically help 3 people. So I can help, I help less clients, that's bad for the client. I'm also putting a cap on my income. Why would I want to do that? Right, when I can work send instead. So the point is, after I explained that to the property in a professional way, they agreed with me and paid anyways, right? So if you guys are struggling with collecting payment because some property required for you to escort, just explain to them in a professional way, always on video, so because video is the best way to communicate with people, and explain to them nicely in a professional way that, hey, this doesn't even make sense for you to require us to escort because we're doing the wrong thing by the client. We're not helping as much people and we're wasting their time, right? And then we're putting a cap on our income, so we're making less dollars every month. So why would this make sense for me or for the leasing or for our clients, right? It also doesn't make sense for the property to require you to escort, because it's like when you escort, what are we going to try to do as real estate agents when we go escort with our clients, right? We're going to try to do their on-site leasing agent's job for them, right? Because we're sitting there trying to close and answer questions, right, with our client. If we show up to a property with our client, we're going to answer all their questions, give them a tour, and then try to close them at the property. We're literally doing everything that the apartment pays their own leasing agent staff to do. So when that happens, it's like you run into a lot of problems with the leasing agents. You're rubbing them the wrong way because it's like you're trying to do their job, they're trying to do their job. Really, you should be working together to close the client. But it's like a lot of the times what really ends up happening in the real world is that you rubbed each other up like the wrong way, and then everyone gets a bad name, right? Then leasing agents hate brokers, and like, right, that's what's going on. So it's better if the leasing agent just does the job they were hired to do, and then we do our job and refer the client over and help more people genuinely, right? So the whole practice of requiring a broker to escort, like, you know, in person, in order to be compensated makes absolutely zero sense for everyone that's involved, right? For the property, for your client, and for yourself. So that's why I don't work send, but that's how you can actually get paid every time. Is first of all, make sure your name is on the paper application or on the online application, or not. Just don't even like try to argue it if it's not. But if it is, and then you're getting some pushback because you weren't physically there, just explain to them, right? And you can save the same Loom video of you explaining your business practices, right? I'm a big fan on working smart and teaching my students how to work smart from the start, right? So instead of being in a bad mood and jumping on the phone and like arguing, when you're in your best mood, just record one video saying, hey guys, you know, like I know that you guys require us to escort, but this is why we think it doesn't really make sense to, and then explain to them how it's like everything I talked about in this video in a short way, and then save it, right? So that way you're doing it when you're in a good mood, and then every time someone tries to not pay you because you didn't escort, you just send the same email over and over and again, and then most often than not, you will get compensated, right? So that's how you always get paid as an apartment locator. You know, stop doing lease verifications that don't even make sense anymore. Stop doing paper guest cards. It's year 2020. And then work send, right? Work remotely. Don't actually escort unless you want to make less money. So I hope you guys appreciated that video, and subscribe to my channel, please. Give this video a thumbs up if you agreed what I said. If you don't agree with me and you think lease verifications are valuable and paper guest cards are really valuable, go ahead and hit the thumbs down twice and leave me a comment on why you think I'm wrong. I love you guys and I value all of your opinions, even if you don't agree with me. I'll see you on the next one.